So today we're going infinite with Millennium Calendar, going from 1 to 1000 counters in one turn in standard using a 1-cost common from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I'm going to be doing 1000 damage out of nowhere with an infinite combo. But before I start, don't forget to like, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe below. It massively helps out, and I want to thank you all for the support that you give this channel. But onto this deck, and as I mentioned earlier, I finally managed to find a way to go infinite in standard with Millennium Calendar. For those of you who don't know, the Millennium Calendar is a 1-cost legendary artifact that says whenever you untap one or more permanents during your untap step, put that many time counters on it, then for 2 and tap, double the amount of time counters on it. When there are 1000 or more time counters on the Millennium Calendar, sacrifice it and each opponent loses 1000 life. This card has been worded in such a specific way to stop it being taken advantage of, as you can't do anything in your untapped step, but the doubling ability is not, and this part can certainly be exploited. How are we going to do this? Well, firstly, I need some infinite mana, and that's no problem in standard, as we can use Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Army of Whispered Hopes, and Sleep-Cursed Faerie. Get those creatures exiled under your cauldron, and any of your creatures with a +1 counter and power 3 or greater can then use the exiled creature's abilities to just tap and untap for infinite mana. But wait, the Millennium Calendar isn't a creature, so this wouldn't work? Well, let me introduce you to Relic's Roar, a 1-cost common instant from Lost Caverns of Ixalan that turns any artifact into a dinosaur artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/3 in addition to its other types until end of turn. So target your calendar with this at instant speed, tap your cauldron, and then go infinite. The 5 power of your creature will quickly gain you enough mana from the Kami's ability to then just tap and double your counters, and then untap from the Sleep-Cursed Faerie's ability, and then you can just keep repeating this until you get to over 1000 counters. It doesn't even take that long for the combo to work, as doubling the counters quickly gets you way past the 1000. The rest of the deck helps with creating your infinite combo loop. I've got Make Disappear for some interaction, and also a way to casualty any combo creatures you may have on the battlefield into the grave. Bitter Triumph is a removal spell where you can discard a card. We have lots we want to discard here. We've got Picklock Prankster to mill and hopefully find a Relic's Roar, or a removal to put back into your hand. The creature is nice too, as you can then use Diabolic Intent to sacrifice it and literally just find your combo pieces. We've got Cut Down for early removal, Thirst for some card draw and discard, and finally Rankle's Prank. It's a great card to stabilize and discard your creatures if need be. We've got 24 lands, and that is today's deck. So this deck is definitely janky, but I really wanted to find a way to go infinite with the calendar, however wacky it may be, and see if it can work as a concept in standard. It requires a decent amount of moving parts, but they really weren't that hard to find, and I actually won tons of games with just the calendar the normal way, or even as a Dimir control deck. Go ahead though and let me know what you think, and if you have any other thoughts on this deck or the new Ixalan set, you can let me know in the comments below. Find me over on Twitter, and as always, thank you for watching. Alright, on the play, hand looks really nice with our calendar and our Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So we will be keeping this one and get our Underground River on turn 1, and then let's play this calendar. Let's get this thing going. So the one thing with this deck is you need a counter on the calendar, so you can't play that the turn that you want to go infinite. So getting it down on turn 1 is fine, and then we'll get down the Soul Cauldron as well. Opponent with Orzhov, it seems, but we'll hold the Thirst for Discovery for their end step and try and draw into our creatures, which we have Bitter Triumph, so we can discard those as long as we have a target for us to destroy. And there's a Relic's Roar, okay. I always feel like Relic's Roar is the hardest cards to find in our deck, which is why I'm playing the Picklock Prankster. Okay, another Thirst is exactly what we need. So a slow start for us here. I wonder if they see what's going on with the calendar and the cauldron on the battlefield. Opponent with Infectious Inquiry, draw 2, lose 2, and we get a poison counter. So we're on a clock. They're on a clock. They're on a much slower clock than we are at the moment. And we will use our Thirst. We did find a Fairy here, so perfect card to discard. So we can start using our cauldron here to our benefit, and we will eat our Fairy. Just need to find a Kami here. And then we should, in theory, be able to go infinite. So how do we get the Kami into the graveyard? Well, we have the Bitter Triumph, but we can also play the Kami and use Make Disappear, sacrificing it with a Casualty to get it into the graveyard, but we still don't find one anyway. And we'll just pass the turn. We will hold open our Make Disappear, and we can even hold open the doubling of the calendar if we want to. Feast of the Victorious Dead for our opponent. So it looks like they might be on some sort of control deck here. And I'm fine with that, as long as we hold open Make Disappear and make sure our creatures are not, or our spells are not, countered. And we will Picklock Prankster here, see what we can find. Diabolic Intent, perfect card here. Diabolic Intent is going to allow us to find our Kami, and we can use the Picklock Prankster's creature side to enable that. We'll leave their Lord of the Forsaken from the graveyard because I feel like they might be up to some shenanigans with that card. Play our Prankster here. And I'm just going to go for the Intent now so that we have lethal next turn. So fingers crossed we survive anything like a Farewell or anything to get rid of our artifacts. And if they do want to target one of our artifacts, please target the calendar as we have another one in our hand. But our shields are down for this one turn only. Come on, opponent. Just play a creature. We also need to target the use Bitter Triumph. We need something to target. And they do play a Gargantua. So that's pretty nice. We will target that with our Triumph to enable us to put our Kami into the graveyard. Another Relic's Roar. Fair enough. But yeah, this should be lethal. They are tapped out. So make sure to do this right. Bit of Triumph here, the Phyrexian Gargantua. Discard an Kami. Play Relic's Roar onto our Millennium Calendar. It is now a 4-3 with 21 time counters on it. Use our Agatha's Soul Cauldron, eat that Kami, targeting the calendar. And yeah, it's just going to be tapping and untapping here. We need a fair bit of mana here to be able to tap and untap with the to get time counters, to double our time counters, but we'll see how quickly this can go. Fingers crossed our opponent allows us to do this. A lot of people will scoop already when they know what's going on. But the Fairy here is doing two things. It's untapping so that we can tap for more mana, but it's also going to allow us to untap the calendar to then start doubling. But we'll bank some mana here. Yeah, let's see how we get on. So this is going up to 42, untap it, we're going to go back up to 84, untap it, 168. So this is just going to show how quickly this card can get out of hand. I don't think we have quite enough mana here to do this. I think we need to gain 5 more blue mana. But I'm not fast forwarding through this just yet because I guess we have mana untapped in our mana base, so we don't need to do this one as well. But this is a 1000 damage to our opponent with an infinite combo. Amazing. Alright, on the draw. Another decent hand we've got here. So we can always... Oh, we have the Kami. That's nice. So we'll play the Fairy. We can Diabolic Intent that one. And maybe this will distract the opponent if they've got any specific game plans going on. Obviously the Fairy only costs 1, so it's easier to get down straight away. Kami costing 3, meaning we'll probably just want to discard that card. But we can intent the Fairy here, and we're definitely going to look for the Millennium Calendar. We need that on the battlefield, we need that to start moving. Opponent with the Ozolith, and they are in Selesnya, so we need to make sure we swerve any kind of artifact removal. Not always easy to do in these against these colours. But we'll get the calendar down now. And we'll follow up with a... I think we'll just pass the turn. They have a creature, which is a target that we need for the Bitter Triumph. Yeah, they spend their turn with the Ozolith onto the Negotiator, so we'll wait for them to attack. Destroy that, and we will discard our Kami here. So all going to plan so far. We just need our Relic's Roar. And we'll get the Cauldron onto the battlefield. Say go. Okay, I want to eat these 2 creatures from our grave as quick as possible, just in case they can deal with our graveyard. Put it with a Mask of the Jaycrafter. And we will eat the Kami. We have another fairy on the battlefield. Make sure we tap our mana here, and then we can just pass the turn. Not what we want. So we're just 1 card off winning this game. And I hope we don't start flooding now. Opponent with Hoarding Recluse. Okay, a 2/3 reach Death Touch. So a pretty nice card in the face of a Sleep-Cursed Faerie. But we'll eat the fairy from our graveyard. Alright, so Agatha is done its thing now. We just need to make sure there is a creature in a graveyard for Agatha to trigger when the time comes. And we will double up our Millennium Calendar counters, add some more. It's on 23 right now. Drew another fairy, a couple of those on the battlefield. So pretty slow here for us. Phyrexian Missionary is not a problem. And the Orzhov onto the 2/3. Okay. And they attack. Alright, well I'm going to untap my fairy and I'm going to block. If I'm not careful, this 4/5 is going to become much more of a bigger problem. So we'll block that one. So we just need to look in for some card draw, I think, or obviously our Relic's Roar. And I'm going to eat that fairy from our graveyard. And say go. So we could have doubled our Millennium Calendar counters, but it doesn't matter if we're going for a combo anyway. Doesn't matter if there's 1 or there's 999. There's Relic's Roar, okay. So we just drew it off the top of our deck, which is exactly what I want to see. They are tapped out, so here we go with the combo again. This time we will eat the Recluse from the graveyard, which will give the 1 counter needed for the Millennium Calendar, and this time we can just tap it and untap it, as before. And this should be lethal. We'll see if the opponent lets us do it this time. I guess whilst we're gaining mana, it doesn't matter too much, especially as we have nothing in our hand. They might not see the fact that the Millennium Calendar has an ability that we can use. And we'll start doubling now. Well, we've got to double this like 7 times. It's on 120 now. So a couple more times here. 240, up to 480. Yeah, and I keep forgetting that we have a lot of untapped mana, so we don't need to go too crazy with the banking of mana here. We have more than enough. 480, next 960. Oh, there we go. There we go. We got there in the end, and opponent kind of let us get there. On the draw with a decent hand, so we have our 2 artifacts. 3rd artifact, which we don't need, but we will play the Millennium Calendar as it is our turn 1 play here. Could have held open cut down. Opponent with Golgari. Persistent Specimen. Okay, well, oddly that is a kind of decent card that we can use our Agatha Soul Cauldron to make sure it doesn't keep coming back, especially if they're using it some kind of combo card or like a sacrificial skeleton here. See what they want to follow up with though. Corrupted Conviction, there we go. Sacrificing their skeleton for a load of value here. And we will eat that whilst we can. Nothing else to eat so far. Okay, there's Darkslick Shores. Sure, we'll play that. And say go. So yeah, this is probably the smaller downside of this deck, unless you've got the cards you need. Especially if there's, I guess it's like a 5-card combo here. I suppose you could squeeze in another card that does something with infinite mana if you wanted to, so you're not relying always on the Millennium Calendar and Relic's Roar to win you the game. But this is kind of fun. I do like alt-win cards. Haven't played with one for a while. And the moment that the Millennium Calendar was spoiled, I think everyone looks at how can we get to 1,000 counters, and then everyone thinks of how can we squeeze our way to 11,000 using some kind of cheesy method, and that's exactly what I did. But I hadn't actually seen the Relic's Raw card. There are other cards that do similar kind of effects. I think there's a green one. It costs 4 though. I think the 1-cost Relic is so much better. But opponent is Field of Ruining our Darkslick Shores. We just have the 2 basics in our deck. So we will get our island down. So hopefully they don't do that anymore. Path to the festival to search for a land. Pop it onto the battlefield. And then we'll just go for our Soul Cauldron here, and we'll just eat one of their cards in their graveyard. Probably should have taken the Path to the Festival. I didn't realise it had flashback. Honestly, I've never seen that card before. This is the casual queue. This is obviously not a deck that can be consistently run in the ranked queue. I did try, but way too much artifact removal. You could put all be one in this deck. So if you had space for a red card, you could just drop that this turn, double up the Millennium Calendar tokens, and automatically win the game. Put it with Shakedown Heavy, that points at maybe a Fight Rigging deck. And Sleep-Cursed Faerie is kind of cool. So we can Rankle's Prank here, and we can discard both of our creatures, which we want to do anyway. We'll get them to discard their 2 spells from their hand and get rid of the Shakedown Heavy from the battlefield. That's why I like Rankle's Prank in this deck. It's a decent 4-drop spell, and discarding cards is always quite tricky. The opponent finds a way to get the Shakedown Heavy back onto the battlefield. And Persistent Specimen makes another return. So there's a Nightclubber in their graveyard. I'm going to eat my Kami though, and my Fairy before I start touching their graveyard. So they're definitely some kind of Reanimator style deck, like Graveyard Matters deck. And I'm just going to let the damage go through it. We're just 1 card off winning. Just need a Relic's Raw here. Fell Horseman. Is that 3/3? So yeah, 1 card off winning, so might as well just taking the damage. But we can QQ to double up our Millennium Calendar token counters. They're on 156, so they're actually just 3 turns from dying just with that, the sort of fairway. Interesting. And we're going to have to start removing this heavy from combat going forward. Here comes the Specimen again. Well, I'm just going to attempt to eat that from their graveyard. Okay, it's resolves. Can they pay that 3-cost again? Sort of override my Agatha on the stack? I don't know. I think they might have been able to there. But we'll take 3. We'll give them a card with a Shakedown Heavy. Huh. And that card was Broken Wings. Okay. They take our Cauldron. Wow, if they're playing Broken Wings, I need to find a way to win this game quickly. Picklock Prankster, okay. Alright, well, let's cast this. Make disappear Thirst and Bitter Triumph. I think the Bitter Triumph is the card we need. And we'll just play the 1/3 here. Alright. I really don't want to give them a card. I'm worried that they've got another Broken Wings. I thought that might have been it then. That is Thirsting Roots, okay. They find a land. So I think I do a slight misplay here. I should be blocking the 1/3 of the Picklock Prankster, taking the damage from the heavy, then doubling up the calendar with our mana, and then winning next turn. But I went for the destroying of the Shakedown Heavy instead. So it wasn't until I watched back this that I realised that we probably missed lethal on that specific turn. We should be okay though, as long as they don't find a Broken Wings to win one turn later. But yeah, should have just went down to 2. They had no cards in their hand. Thirsting Roots though for our opponent, and that should be game. We'll just block. And there's no way for the opponent to win this game here. We will just QQ, double up our calendar counters on 650, 658. We draw Diabolic Intent. Opponent GG's us. We'll GG back, and that is 1,000 damage, the recommended way.